Welcome to the Activity Time Podcast, hosted by the SLE marketing team.
Welcome back, Dons. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Activity Time. I'm Emilio.
And I'm Macy.
And we're the SLE marketing team.
In the previous episode, we had a discussion with the USF Recreational Sports Department, their facility also known as Correct Health and Recreation Center, regarding virtual opportunities for students, plans of reopening, and future activities and events.
Today, we thought we'd change things up a bit as we approach the end of the semester and just keep it real between Macy and I, especially because she's graduating this semester. But I'm happy for you, Macy. Oh my gosh, you're going to go off and do amazing things. But I still got you, and we still have a few more weeks to go. But anyways, so Macy, I don't know about you and the students that are listening, but I am so ready to just close my screen and get outside of my room and do something fun. So like whether that be going on a trip with friends, dining in at a restaurant, or watching a movie in a theater. I mean, the thing is, though, all these activities come at a cost, and spending money is not always fun as a college student. However, I would say, I'm sure you can agree too, learning different skills to manage your finances and invest your money in other ways can save you lots of time and stress when making grown-up decisions. So we thought today, to kick things off, we wanted to add on to the series of the things they don't tell you, such as financial literacy and the pros and cons of being a college student. Or as we would say, a social term that is overused, a starving student.
For those of you who don't know, according to Investopedia, financial literacy is the possession of the set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all of their financial resources. Examples can include personal financial management, budgeting, and investing. And thank you, Emilio, for describing literally what all college students, end up thinking about when we go into college. Really is like, how am I going to have fun? Like, where am I going to get this money for? It's the time to really build yourself as a person and experiences that you're going to remember for a lifetime. And just as a disclaimer, we are no experts or financial advisors. We're not affiliated with any specific business outside of USF. We just thought we'd share, our personal experience with money as a college student while living in San Francisco.
Macy, you said it all there. I would say, do you want to just get right into sharing some of the articles we came across on the internet?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we found a couple cool articles. And Emilio, I think you definitely nailed it with the ones we're about to talk about. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Yes, we wanted to bring on a financial advisor for you all today. It's just, however, in terms of time and trying to get everyone, it was a little difficult. But however, we were able to get some advice from some professionals, thanks to the internet, and some other people we've gotten advice from. So the first one that I came across was on Forbes.com, and it's called 6 Crucial Money Tips for College Students by Jim Wang, and he specializes in personal finance. The first tip that he provided for us is to start building credit. Again, I'm going to repeat that. Start building credit. After you graduate, one of the most important numbers in your life is your credit score. It's a 3-digit number that tells creditors how credit worthy you are. Today, anyone who extends any kind of credit will care, whether that be a landlord, they'll check your credit because they are extending your housing, or even employers can check your credit as part of a background check. And if you have a bad credit score or no credit history at all, it becomes much harder for you to get many things in life. And honestly, I didn't have a credit card for the longest time until this pandemic happened. So I've been really trying to learn how to manage my credit over time. And I mean, let's just say it's been an interesting experience so far. The second point that Jim provided was to avoid credit card debt. So as we had just said, though, it's important to build your credit, but you want to spend less than you earn. That was like a key point that I took away from this article. He even stated that credit card debt can hold you back financially for years, if not longer, because the interest rates are so high. they're often in the mid to high double digits. It's insane. And, too, I mean, as we get older, the more responsibilities we have, with insurance, mortgage or rent, healthcare, everything. So food. So another thing when he's saying about avoiding credit card debt, he means carrying on a balance and paying interest. So whether you be paying off your credit card bill every month, you are building credit without paying huge interest and financial charges. And building credit score does not, or excuse me, building credit does not require you to carry a balance. So
Mm.
yeah.
And something interesting that I read online too, in terms of like having credit card debt or just debt in general, is that it seems like as a society, we've kind of like normalized having debt. So they kind of challenge you to think differently. Like instead of accepting it, is trying to find ways to really avoid it. Don't always settle for debt. I'm pretty sure there are other ways to avoid it, but if you can, I mean, sometimes people just have to have debt,
Mhm.
and that's completely understandable. But if you know that it's avoided, definitely try your best. For example, like I, when I was in college, I had the decision to either take out a loan in that moment, or work. And I easily avoided that by working. And it ended up working out really well for me. And I'm really glad I started working and started putting my money earned into, my tuition, because it really helped avoid that interest that Emilio was talking about.
Mhm.
And definitely start building your credit. Like he said, if you're going to move to San Francisco, um, landlords are going to ask for your credit card history. I mean, your credit score history. So it's really important to start building that so that if you're, a freshman or sophomore and you're looking to move off campus your junior or senior year, you'll be ready.
Mhm.
And especially if it's well taken care of.
Definitely. Just adding on to your point too, Macy. Something that came to my mind, and a lot of people have told me, is like, yeah, it's important to build your credit, but they say it's not healthy to have multiple credit cards. I've
Yeah.
attended different workshops, and just other advisors have even told me, they're like, because that's how you end up even being in more debt. People think, oh, if I have multiple cards, then I could build up my credit even more. Um, but you got to spend more. And sometimes you don't have enough capital or just money to be able to pay for all that at the moment. So
Mm.
um, does that kind of make sense? That was an interesting point that I found at a workshop that I attended virtually last semester.
No,
Mhm.
that makes sense. And I feel like that applies maybe like if you're maybe you know yourself and you know that managing things or being organized isn't really your thing. It can be really hard when you have multiple credit cards then because you're reliable for so many instead of just
Mhm.
one or two. So I find that very interesting. I can definitely see that point for sure.
Right. And I would also encourage one last point too, I think for students is to, if you're new to building credit, is to just start off with a student credit card. That's
Mm,
something I did. I was not familiar at all. And honestly, I mean, there are some restrictions and limitations, but like it's better than have that and then have so much freedom and just splurge. That's
yeah.
not healthy. And so, and then over time you could learn to, of course, become more independent as you learn over time. So, and build your credit that way. So yeah, my accounts specifically, I mean, I've dealt through Chase. Other friends have told me other places. It's just yeah. So
Find
um
one that works for you. There's
exactly.
definitely
Find what
many.
works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Discovery, they have the student cards as well.
Yeah.
Bank of America. Yeah, I think
I think with
every
the Discovery, if you have a certain amount, like a certain GPA, they'll even give you like money back. So I thought that was really cool. There are definitely lots of cool programs. It's definitely worth, researching to find what best suits your needs. But that's
definitely.
so interesting.
Another thing too is there's a lot of annual fees for credit
Mhm.
cards, and I know student cards do not have that, and that's something they encourage because they're like, of course you got to spend money to have a credit card, and if you're not in a situation where you can't afford that, then maybe that card's not for you. um, so yeah. And then the third point I wanted to share with you all that Jim had stated was to create a budget. Budgeting is a life skill that is easiest when you have a limited financial world. Budgeting is when you create a spending and a saving plan.
Mhm.
With a spending plan, you can try to forecast how much you are spending each month in a variety of categories. As the month progresses, you track how you're doing against your budget, and any money left goes. So, excuse me, any money that would goes. I sorry, any money that is left over can go into your savings.
Exactly. I
Mhm.
think you can have a lot of fun with budgeting. Like there's definitely different types of methods to hold yourself accountable, to start saving a bit of money. I've seen like an envelope method. It's really interesting. You can like do like 10% of what you earn just goes directly into your savings account. Like, really, the cool thing about budgeting is that you get to decide how you want to go about it. And YouTube is a great way to see how people are doing it and just get inspiration, really, for how to go about it. But really, really cool, flexibility with budgeting for sure.
Definitely. I have found YouTube my new best friend this past year during the pandemic, just of getting financial advice from different people and just seeing people's different spending habits, of course, during in a time of crisis. And yeah, it's just interesting. I mean,
Right.
there's plenty of books, which I know we can recommend those to you all later in apps. But it's always nice. And I think it's important to hear from other people's personal experiences, especially, our family, learn the ins and outs, other our professors, grandparents, to learn from their experience. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. And on that note, something that's kind of similar but different is building a small emergency fund. And what a small emergency fund is a pot of money that you keep aside for a rainy day. Let's say, you decided to get a car and then you go out only to realize that it just doesn't work. So now we're having expenses coming in, unexpected expenses. So instead of reaching out to your savings, something that you're keeping for something else or for your future, you tap into your small emergency fund. So it's definitely something different than what your savings should be. So yeah, it protects you if you ever have to deal with an immediate or urgent financial emergency. And the good thing, yeah, go ahead.
But
If you,
I was just gonna say, I think this is a really important point.
Mhm.
One of the most significant ones on there because, of course, which we'll go into investing next. But in terms of the pandemic, I always bring that up, but I think it's just really important, especially because that was kind of like the first big, um, you know, natural, not natural, but like what would we call that? The pandemic, like a big thing that I think our generation experienced,
Yeah.
in times of a crisis. And people were losing their jobs, or people have had to change their whole lifestyle around. Um, and so that's why I think like in those kind of times it's very important because you just can't predict the future in those times of need. Another thing too is, especially with us going back in the fall, um, I've been told and have even looked at some studies that a lot of students are going to want to go out and spend. They're going to want to just go have fun. And there's going to come a point, if you live that lifestyle, you're eventually going to run out of money. So it's always important, I think, to have an emergency fund. So that was just something I wanted to share. But again, I'm no expert.
Right. No, I definitely love this point and I agree with you. It's just really nice to have a safety blanket, and like your future self will thank your past self for doing this. So yeah, I think it's a really cool way to start adulting, understanding these concepts and applying them. And that kind of leads me to the next fun thing. When you start getting older, 18, you can start learning how to invest. And I think this is one of the cool parts because saving money will start your nest egg, but investing it will enable it to grow. And remember to invest in yourself too, not just your money, but like yourself as a human being. But yeah, Emilio, do you have any other thoughts in terms of investing?
That was honestly what you had said, Macy, about investing in yourself. I think that is very important. Um,
Hmm.
I think a common stereotype that people associate the word investing with is putting money in the stock market. not everyone likes to do that. I mean, me, I think it's cool, but you have to be very consistent, and just in terms of an economic crisis, like what it's been this past year, or just when there's, a growth in the economy, you have to be very passionate, I think, about that. And not everyone is. But at the same time, when I think you were saying investing in yourself, yeah, how can you continue to grow as a person and continue to learn while of course making money, I guess. So of course, like whether that be investing in like a LinkedIn premium, that could help you to get into employers, and communicate with them, share your experience, and that could lead you to a job. Or whether that be, of course, education, that's investing. I'm trying to think of a few others that, I don't know, Macy, anything that comes to the top of your head?
Honestly, invest time in yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things. Um, because with time and investing in yourself, you can do so many things and grow in so many ways. Whether it's, trying out a new hobby or getting into working out, or, investing time into, researching how can I eat healthier, what, like what nutritions will help me, grow as a person and keep you, feeling good. I think those are just important things that someone could consider for sure.
Definitely
Yeah,
agree.
health is important. And I think also starting at a very young age is going to set some very healthy habits for a healthy life.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to our last topic, which is have fun. Just remember that college is a time for you to really explore and try new things when you have very little at stake. We're young, we're making, mistakes that, you know, that it's fine to do because we're young. Um, as we get older, we have more responsibilities, which makes it harder if we do mess up or something. But this section reminds me of like, I remember some people will say like, oh, that coffee that you get every day, like this is how much you're like losing out on in terms of saving money, cut that coffee out. And my perspective is like, have fun, like get that coffee. You work for your money, like 350, like spend that on yourself. Have fun. You're young. So all of these topics, although they're very important, you decide what works for you and what doesn't. And it's always healthy to have a balance. I think that's the key, just finding the balance that works for you. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
No, it makes it. I mean, you nailed it there. I've tried to think of adding on anything just from my experience as well, but I just would say, to close off with that article, I hope you all found that very insightful. Of course, we'll make sure to link the URL below of this article so you can actually refer to these points too. We also thought we'd share another quick article with you all from one of my favorite American financial advisors, Susie Orman. It's called The Magic of Compounding. That kind of adds on to more of just learning how to invest. And the first thing I want to start off is I found a definition, because for those of you that don't know what compounding is, it's the process in which an asset's earnings from either capital gains or interest are reinvested to generate additional earnings over time. And again, like I said, I cited that from investopedia.com. Now back to Susie's article. She had stated that in a recent survey of millennials found that nearly 4 in 10 adults between the age of 22 and 35 believe that there is no big rush to start saving for retirement. That really stood out to me. I mean, I'm only 21. Macy, you're 22, right?
Two.
Okay,
Mhm.
just want to make sure. I mean, we're still very young. Retirement is how many lifetimes away from us? I know we're not even thinking about that right now. But I mean, one of the most overlooked tricks of investing is that time is on your side. The earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to grow. And so that's where the term compound growth comes in. Now, what Susie had, she came up with an example We thought that it was very simplified for you all to understand. So basically, if you save $250 a month starting at age 22, so like Macy, she would nearly have 1.2 million saved by the time she is 70, assuming a 7% annualized return. So over the 48 years, she contributed $144,000, and compound growth did the rest of the work. Um,
Wow.
Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, it's really impressive.
um, and so adding on to that, if you wait until the age of 42 to start saving, you would end up with around $260,000 by age 70. That's the cost of 20 years less than of 20 years less of contributions, and most importantly, 20 less years of compounding working for you. So in conclusion, what Susie had said is to try your very best to start saving for retirement today. So
Mhm.
you can take advantage of compound growth. Something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Take the time to carefully go through your budget, and you could find $50 or more a week if you really try and trim from spending, and that can go towards your retirement savings. So if you do have a retirement plan and work that offers you a matching contribution, um, she's like, please, please, please make sure you are contributing enough to the plan to qualify for the maximum matching contribution. There is no big deal than receiving a bonus that can then compound for decades. So yeah,
Wow.
the one and
I
only legend, Susie Orman.
You did such a great job at explaining compounding. And I think that example of like 1.2 million versus 260,000, and like that gap is huge. So you can definitely see compounding, being best when you start at a very young age. So yeah, I think that's a really great point. Thank you for bringing that out.
Of course. I know, Macy, see, you're going to be a millionaire.
I need to start.
um, Alrighty. Well, I don't know, Macy. Should we now dive into like some questions that we thought students would be interested in hearing?
Yeah, sure. Let's go
Okay.
for it. We'll do
Uh,
like a Q&A. This is fun.
yes. So this part of the podcast now, we thought we'd touch on some questions that Macy and I could ask each other. We asked around with some students thinking like, what do they want to hear from college students, especially from us, yours truly, you're the host. So we kind of came up with these questions. Of course, if you have any additional things you'd like to know, please let us know at some point. DM us, you can email us, whatever. We'd love to share. Or even if you want to come on in future podcasts, even in the next academic year, and talk about your experience with money, would love to have you. So going into the first question, we had came up with, what main expenses come to the top of your mind that students spend their money on the most, besides tuition, of course. um, I was gonna say, I guess I can go first. Some of them that I came up with was, of course, food. I am such a foodie, and I think being in San Francisco, everywhere you go, there's a restaurant, there's a market, there's a coffee shop. There's just always something pertaining to food, and of course, that's why we have a meal plan, especially for freshmen that are living on campus. But I know it is nice to see, because of course that's what the city is known for. Um, Another thing too is self-care products. I noticed, especially as a freshman going up to San Francisco, I was unfamiliar with the area, and having to share a dorm. You're like, oh my gosh, like, do I need this? What do I need? Like, I should probably stock up on plenty of deodorant, so that saves me a trip to the store. But also too, like, do you really need all those at that time? So I think that's just another thing. Of course, technology. We live in we were born in the 21st century, so smartphone era, tablets, laptops, gaming consoles, all of that. And I think too, just like activities. That's like another thing I was thinking of. In terms of hobbies. Of course, what we like to do in life, that usually comes with a cost. Mhm.
I definitely agree. Like these are all such great points. And I was gonna say food also as my number one. I think that is the biggest thing in terms of spending that comes to the top of my mind. And like you mentioned, the good thing is that USF does have a food meal plan. And the great thing is that if you don't, finish with them, they have a store where you can buy like a rice cooker, all these cute little teapots. So it's really good to use your flexi. Yeah, use it if you can. And the food is very there's a wide variety that we have. But I do find myself spending a lot on food takeout. But yeah, that's my experience.
I've noticed sometimes too, like with just being back home, that's like my daily outing is to go get food. There's days where, like I won't want to cook and I just want to go to the store, or just like go to a local business or a chain, since those are more common where I'm at. Yeah, that's just the I feel like that's like a activity and essential in itself. Yeah.
Exactly. So Emilio, what is actually one purchase you regret making while in college, or a financial mistake? It could be anything really.
Okay, so I'm gonna be real with you all. I first started working right before, like when I started college, and I went to a private school most of my life, and I had to pertain to or like obey, a dress code, or we had uniforms. So I always wanted to figure out, because I was always fascinated with clothing and just design. I felt like that was a fun way of self-expression, and
Mhm.
that was kind of like my way of like, oh my god, being in San Francisco, that's like going to be a fun way. So um I would say when I first started working, I was buying a lot of unnecessary clothing, and that adds up very quickly. And me personally, I look back and I'm like, God, I could have put that money towards so many other things. I only wore this thing once and all. However, what's great about the city, or I think just in California, is we've got a lot of thrift shops, or consignment stores that you could go and sell your clothes after. I've done that, and that's kind of been even my way of I would say buying clothes that hold their value. That's something important too. Or just even investing in itself too. So yeah, I've gotten better with being at home, and just, because I'm like not going out as much, there's no need to buy new clothes, or even, used clothes at a thrift store. So, but yeah, that's that's something I want to share with you all, is be careful, because those clothes can add up to being, a month's worth of being food for you, or a payment towards, a laptop, a car, all of that. Yeah, a monthly payment for your rent, all that. Yeah.
You bring up a really great point, because I've also found myself doing that. I feel like when I was, younger, and I feel like this is something that, it varies by person, right? Buying into fast fashion, and you pay these cheap prices, because sometimes they actually aren't that cheap, um only for them not to retain their value. So I think that's very important with, for any financial decision that you make. Think about it in the long term. Like, is this going to bring any value back to you? Um, yeah, because definitely I find myself investing in pieces, but pieces that'll last me a long time, and pieces that I actually enjoy, figuring out your style so then you're not constantly buying different things is very important. And if you do end up spending on something, which is hopefully on a sustainable brand, or buying sustainable clothes like thrift shops, yeah, it's a good thing if it does hold its value. Because you can always, make money off of it. And yeah, that's a good thing, like you mentioned.
Definitely. What about for you, Macy?
Um, so yeah, grocery habits. I think I when I was younger, obviously like freshman, sophomore year, I didn't even really think about like what was going like in me, like the food that I was eating. I was just buying a lot of like quick meals, and I wish I could have invested more time in like learning how to eat healthier, building up healthy habits, and not being like shy to use the kitchen downstairs, or being lazy to use it.
Mhm.
I wish I could have gone back and changed that and really start, developing some cooking skills, because it definitely would have saved me money, time. It would have just been a great time to like spend with myself. Yeah, that's a regret, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, I'm in for a treat. I'll be back in an apartment in San Francisco for the first time because I've just dealt with dorm life. So I appreciate you sharing that because I'll be having to go to the grocery store a lot more now. Yeah. Um, I think on a positive note, what is one purchase that you are proud of that you made sometime during your college experience?
It would have to be my roller skates. I really love my roller skates, and I even talking about it makes me want to like go roller skate right now because the happiness it brings me. I bought something that I knew was going to make me happy and was going to get me outside of the house. Um, and it's a great way to exercise. So that's something I'm really proud of. It's bringing me, happiness, and it's helping me like stay active. So two things that I find very valuable, worth investing for sure.
I can't display it because I'm currently on it right now, but I would say a reliable laptop.
Yeah.
This past year, I do not know what I'd do without it. um, even to just even going into college and note taking to referring to lectures, of course, submitting assignments. Um, it's really important because it's like we live in a digital world now. But also too carrying me personally, I think having a lot of papers at hand could be very overwhelming too. Um,
Mhm.
and when I say reliable laptop, of course, anything I think just that works for you. Of course, too, as a college student, it's important to compare others to and see like, is it really worth spending more on something like this, or if you're even not going to use it or not. So I had a bad experience in high school, separate conversation
Mhm.
with a laptop, and it had a programmed like some virus on it, and
Oh.
I yeah. But long story short, my school, they were able to get it taken care of and all. So
Oh.
um, that's why I was like, I want a laptop that's just, I need something to last me for college and hopefully afterwards. So yeah. So I guess leading into the next fun question that Macy and I wanted to share with you all is, what
Ooh.
are the top 5 essentials you recommend that every college student should purchase for their college journey?
This was such a fun question. I actually literally was stuck on this question for a while because I really wanted to think about what 5 things that I absolutely do not regret purchasing. And it would have to be one, a good pair of headphones. So anything that you can listen to music to, listen to podcasts to. I actually ended up getting AirPods. They're a pretty good option. There are definitely a variety out in the market, so definitely find something that suits your needs. But I found that this worked great, for if I wanted to go to bed and listen to some music, if I wanted to go out into the city, listen to some music, work out, like anything. If I wanted to go to the library and study, I had my AirPods and it just worked great. Like I love them so much, and I use them all the time. So, not a mistake for me. Next thing would be a USB power strip. So these are the power strips that come with like well, mine comes with two USB ports. And I just found this super helpful because it extended, like your normal outlet or whatever. And it was perfect to charge my laptop, to charge my phone, just extra stuff all in one place. I love it. A first aid kit. Okay, this one is like my number one, a first aid kit. Like, do you know how hard it is to find a Band-Aid? Like,
Especially like when you're out like in public, or like if you're out hiking and like, up in the hills, all that. Yeah.
exactly. Like, I love my first aid kit so, so much. It comes with like an antibacterial cream, like all these bandages, and I've used them. And what I love about it is that everyone gets impressed around me if they need one. And I'm like, I got you because I have that kit.
Mhm.
So I love having it and definitely don't regret it. Camera, it could be your phone. You can either invest in one, film. It honestly depends on your need, but I love photographing, memories that I want to look back into. So that's something that I find valuable to invest in. And this is not really something you have to purchase. This is actually an app, but I wish I knew about Reddit earlier in my life. So when I was a freshman or sophomore, I just realized that it's a really unique app with different communities. And that's what I love. Like, if you love something super specific, like, I don't know, like, I don't even know, like knitting or something, like, and you don't have, like, let's say the community on campus, it's on Reddit, and there are so many cool resources that you can get into. And people that are helpful, they'll give you books that will help you get into it. So I think Reddit is a really cool place if you're looking for a very, specific community.
Definitely. Um, I I would say the first one that comes to my mind is a good backpack.
Mm,
Probably don't have to use it as much right now, of course, with being remote, but being back in person, and even before, I noticed I had one that I was using from high school, like my first 2 years, because I want to try to, and it was like hurting my back. It wasn't for me. I was like, I think it's time, and it eventually ripped. Um, so I went with a backpack. It's called Timbuktu. I have it like right here. Oh my God, you can't even see it. Oh yeah, you kind of. So what I like about it too is, okay, so yeah, they're SF based and they practice sustainability. Hey, sponsor me, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. um, but I like too is like, I think just finding a backpack that of course has like the memory foam or whatever on the back, the cushion support. That's really healthy. Last thing you want is to, have a screwed up back by the time you're 25 because of all the stress from walking around classes and stuff in college. Or sciatica or whatever. So don't want that. And two, it's when you're on the go, you could use it on, traveling whenever you're going out and about, like, doing outdoor excursions or just you have to go to an event, you got everything stored. Your whole life is stored into this. um, I would say another one, this is gonna sound so basic, but a reusable bottle. It is true though. It's mainstream, but um, it comes so much in handy when you're out and about. Um, you don't always have access to filtered water, or if you do, or even plastic bottles, especially because we're trying to become a more eco-friendly culture, especially in the Bay Area. So people will be proud of seeing you with a reusable bottle. Um, and I think another thing that comes to my mind is some form of like a music streaming platform. This is kind of debatable. I use Apple Music, so please don't come for me, anyone. um, or like Spotify Premium. Music, I think, is a necessity for all college students. Wherever you're about, that's our way of just, getting us in our feels through these challenging times while also having fun too. Um, so yeah, I would say that. And then lastly, I'm a big advocate for aromatherapy. I would say like an oil diffuser, especially for those of you that have to share a room with other people or you're just out and about. I mean, we're around a lot of different types of energies throughout these 4 years of our lives. I mean, from stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, um, excitement, all of that. And so I think Macy, you had even said like you had a lavender oil and that's like what's helped you fall asleep. And I'm right there with you. I even use like peppermint to help me. Like, when I'm studying, that just boosts me up. And I think adding on to that too, I would say is herbal tea. Um, especially college students that are over the age of 21 that do like to drink. I've noticed that is helpful, in clearing your immune system, ways of, having a balanced, lifestyle of, being on the go, of also still being healthy, um, promotes, I think good, I'm trying to think of some health benefits of tea on the top of my head. I've just noticed it's a way to calm you down to even help you sleep as well. So yeah. Mhm.
I love that. I definitely used an oil diffuser. Um, and my favorite thing was putting like the drops and like smelling it later. And the herbal tea is definitely a must. Like, I was stocked on that, and it was such a great, like, alternative to, like, maybe boba or something else, at least for me, because I found that, like, it calmed me down, especially chamomile tea. That's
Mhm.
my absolute favorite, and associating it with something, like, peaceful. So, like, when I drink it, I already feel relaxed because I already have that, those two things associated with each other. So definitely a good recommendation.
Mhm. Thank you. So
Yeah.
the last question we have for you all is, what are some resources that better educate you on the path of financial independence? Also, are there any advisors that come to the top of your head that you have found very impactful in your life that you look up to, I would say? Um, yeah.
So currently for me, I would say analyzing current trends, and you can decide like how you want to go about it. For me personally, I like talking to like the people around me. I like using Reddit as a way to understand like what people around the world are thinking or around the nation are thinking. Spotting any memes or trends, like that's something I always like to keep an eye out because sometimes they'll end up popping off on the stock market. So I think that's really interesting. Definitely do your research, obviously, but that's currently what I do. Taking my finance classes very seriously. Um, I found it a great way to build up like a basic of understanding of like money in general. So I think that's another good tip. And like I mentioned, just doing your own research is always a good thing.
Mhm. I would say, like I said earlier, YouTube has really been my best friend this past year. Um, One segment or like one channel that I really like watching is called Millennial Money. They do different segments and bring in people from all over the United States and different industries, and they just do different breakdowns of their monthly expenses. Um, it's just quite fascinating because they bring in people that are multimillionaires and people that are getting their graduate degree, just people all over the place, and so all spectrum, I mean, probably more professional term to use. um, and it's just fascinating to learn from their experience, because I think the millennial generation is the one that we can relate to the most, just because of the age, the closeness in age, and they're a good way for us to look to, after we graduate. And so with that too, what I like is some of the advisors they've brought on, that of course I would say I look up to too. And I want to thank you all, if you are listening to this, is of course Susie Orman, Graham Stefan, and Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, of course, he's the one of the sharks on Shark Tank, and Graham Stefan, he does a YouTube channel as well. On like the do's and don'ts of just money itself, and of course Charles Schwab. He actually came and spoke at USF my sophomore year, and I found his session very inspiring and just insightful for students too. So yeah. Macy, any other things before we lead into the Phoenix announcements? I will say, with you, we want to provide you all, I think, just some recommendations with some apps and books. We could post those below in the description.
Ooh, yeah.
And we could also, I think we'll have a post on our socials afterwards that you can refer to for those. Um, but I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and hope we were able to at least give you a better insight of before going back into the fall, in terms of managing your finances, and especially through our experience. Again, like I said, I'm no expert, but yeah.
I agree. Like we're definitely not experts, but we want to just share our experiences. If you were ever like interested in like what other students are doing, this is honestly what we're doing. We're learning just as you are, and we're in our 20s, and we're just going to try our best to keep learning from here on for sure.
Mhm.
But definitely we'll put the apps down below. We'll put the books down. I know there's a couple books here that were recommended by Warren Buffett. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I guess we can go into our Phoenix announcements.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So, CAB's last event of the semester is here. Zoom in for the Price is Right and win tons of prizes: a TV, an iPad, yoga mats, and so much more. Thursday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Your MC will be season 12 champion of RuPaul's Drag Race, Jada Essence Hall. Come twirl and chat with Jada, win prizes, and have a ball.
Have a ball. And for those of you that don't know, having a ball means, of course, like having fun at like an event, basically. Macy and I were like, what does that mean? So yeah, have fun, y'all. Do you find yourself feeling distracted, procrastinating, or avoiding academic assignments altogether? Many students are currently experiencing difficulty finding focus. Students can attend a Finding Focus workshop that will identify common challenges during this time of virtual learning and will explore tips and strategies to combat those on Friday, May 7th at 10 a.m.
So close to San Francisco and need pantry goods? Complete the request form to schedule a pickup at the USF Food Pantry. Request filled on a first come, first served basis. Thank you all for tuning in and for listening to our announcements. To end it all off, we do have a quote coming from Dave Ramsey. This is, "You must gain control of your money, or the lack of it will forever control you." Thank you all. That's been activities time.
Woo!